You're partying here with the rocker Marty Jannetty and also at Double Axe Handle Smash with Johnny O and Metal Ed. We're taking care of business and having good times. Rocking it.
You're listening to Double Axe Handle Smash Podcast with your hosts, two guys you've never heard of.
And now, the man who is totally lost without Metal Ed, Johnny O. Hey everybody, welcome to Double Axe Handle Smash Podcast. Your host, Johnny O. And unfortunately, this is the first time I am doing one of these without my good friend Metal Ed. Metal Ed up in heaven. This episode, I'm getting tears in my eyes as I say this. This episode is dedicated to you, buddy. And right now, joining me, our special co-host, Mr. El Tiburon.
What's going on, Johnny O? Thanks for having me.
How you doing, man?
What's
good. Going on? Thank you for being on.
Yeah, no problem, man. You know, anything for Double Axe Handle Smash.
Yeah, and I want to take this opportunity to also please plug your details, man.
Yeah, so I've been in a couple of past episodes with you guys on Double Axe Handle Smash, but I go by as El Tiburon, aka Retro Tiburon, aka Mario. I have a podcast named The Retro Wave where I talk about retro and modern horror movies, wrestling, video games, comedy movies, intro TV show themes, anything under the sun. So for those out there that want to check out The Retro Wave, I'm on all podcast apps, or you can go to my website. I have a new website, retrotiburon.com, that's where all my podcasts are posted. But thanks.
Hey, how often does your podcast drop, man?
Oh, my podcast drops once a month, and every now and then, I know you've gotten on me about it, every now and then I'll drop an extra, like a bonus episode. I know you've been trying to get me to do bi-weekly, but as of now, I do once a month, the first of every month, and every now and then I'll drop a bonus episode.
Yeah, and I've told you this before, but I want to tell the audience is, before Metal Ed passed away, we did talk about if anything ever happened to him, what do you want to happen if you wanted me to continue the podcast? And he said, yes, it is my dream as well, just as well as it was for him. So I asked him, who do I co-host such a thing? Who's gonna step in? No one can replace Metal Ed, but he wanted you. He wanted Mario El Tiburon. And I know, unfortunately, with your schedule, you can't commit to that. But from time to time, we discussed this in the past, that you will be on here and there for a special co-hosting episode. I know we have an upcoming episode. There is 4 episodes with Metal Ed before he passed away that we're going to air before I have any new guests. And one of them, the much talked about, the much anticipated episode with Marty Jannetty. And there's a funny story behind that, and I'll get into that in a second. But it's going to be part 1 of 2 episodes with Marty Jannetty. And then we have an episode with you, El Tiburon. You are helping us interview Tito Santana. So we do have that episode in the works. It was already pre-recorded in the fall time. And then we have an episode with Shane Douglas and Tony Atlas. All that with Metal Ed and myself. And we are going to release those. I cannot right now. I had to go through Edwin's computer, Metal Ed's computer at his house, and could not find the Shane Douglas or the Tony Atlas episodes, but I am still looking for that. His wife is helping me look. And I want to give a big thank you and a shout out to Eileen, Edwin's wife, and She's been a huge help and big supporter. So this Marty Jannetty episode, funny story really quick is, maybe might not be so quick, but this Marty Jannetty was Edwin's favorite wrestler. He's always been a Marty Jannetty guy over everybody. And we didn't even think before we started this that we'd ever get to dream to interview the people that we've already interviewed. And I always took credit for it because it was always me that talked to these guys on Twitter and Facebook and try to get these interviews. And Edwin had a podcast before, and he could never get interviews with other people. So he gave me a lot of credit, and I really appreciate it whenever he gave me a shout out for getting these interviews. And I got him Marty Jannetty, his dream come true. And I'm so glad that we got to interview Marty Jannetty before he passed away. And Marty was so hard to get a hold of. We paid him, and then he wanted to it was hard, party with Marty, and Marty, he's a wild guy, and there was a lot of craziness and a lot of things I could not put on the show and a lot of things I have to edit. And he gave us one interview and then suddenly had to go right in the middle of the interview. And he said he would get back to us. And it took 6 months for him to finally get us. And during that would be the second part interview, he was a little bit, what would you say, LT Barone? I don't want to say he was a little partied up. And for the second interview, the first interview, he was both interviews, he was really cool. But the second interview, he was very partied up, and a lot of funny stuff coming at you. But yeah, have any thoughts, T-Bone? I know I've been talking. I'm sorry.
Well, no, man, I think this was a long time coming, and I think this episode needed to happen because as you've brought up in the past and past episodes, Metal Ed let it be known that he was a huge Party Marty fan. And it sounds like he still lives up to the nickname Party Marty, it seems.
Party Marty, yeah. One of the things is the last episode that we released was the Vince Russo episode, the Vince Russo interview, and that was one of our highest rated interviews, and I'm so thankful for that. But it's really screwed up, and that Metal Ed ended up getting sick with COVID in December after we released the Vince Russo interview, and he went to the hospital. And the very next episode we were supposed to release was the Marty Jannetty episode. And he was starting to work on it. He was starting to edit. And we were going to put them together as part 1 and part 2, just as we are now. But it's so hard to do it without him. And that's nothing against you, man. It's just Metal Ed was the guy. It was his wrestler. It was his favorite guy. And I never thought I would be doing it without him. And I still don't know. It's still up in the air what I'm going to do after we get these episodes released. And because it is hard to get funding to get these wrestlers to pay for their time, and they're well worth their time. It's just I don't have that kind of money to do it. I did have some sponsorships, and because it's been so long since I released an episode, they couldn't sponsor me anymore for a while, or maybe for a while. I don't know. Hopefully I get them back. But yeah. So I'd like to I guess there's nothing at the end of this episode. I'm just gonna let it stop after the episode, And I'm not sure when I'm going to release part 2. El Tiburon Mario is going to help me edit these episodes and get them released as soon as possible. So I can't say it's going to be every 2 weeks or every month or whatever. I'm just going to try to get these last couple episodes out for now. And that's that. You can catch me on Twitter at DAH_smash, double axe handle smash. And I would like some feedback. I would like some comments if you can. I do have a Facebook page as well, double axe handle smash. We did have a web page for a while. I think we still have it, but it's not really in use. We're not really updating it or using it. So it's not really any use even telling people about it. So, but yeah, so I guess without further ado, here's the Marty Jannetty episode, part 1.
Welcome, everyone, to
Double Axe Handle Smash
podcast.
Double Axe Handle Smash. So
Our guest is a lively one today.
Man, we got Marty Jannetty.
Man, you just took my thunder.
I'm sorry.
This is my hero from childhood, and you took my thunder. My hero.
Well, I didn't mean to take the thunder, the lightning.
This has been a long time coming for you.
It has. As we were joking, I said, this is my luck. I finally got the interview. I died in my sleep tonight. All right, man. So
same thing will happen on this end.
All right. So Marty, first of all, we're gonna start with the beginning. All right. So the ever reliable, as we found, Wikipedia says you began wrestling 1983 as the cousin of Jerry Oates, cousin Marty. Is this accurate? And if so, how did it come to pass? How were you introduced to the business?
Well, actually, Jerry trained me, and my first couple of matches I went at, it was actually his brother, not a cousin. I went, I think it was Louisiana for Bill Watts in Mid-South. Man, they had a great wrestling crew, but I went out there with Jerry. I was Marty Oates. That's how the name, and it was just to get in with the people. I think that was my third match. We did that in Mid-South, which that lasted about, I don't know, 7 days, just a week's worth, maybe a little longer, because Jerry left after the first day. They didn't even want Jerry. They wanted his brother Ted Oates, and they'd made a mistake on the booking. Old Big Ernie Ladd made a mistake. But so I stayed out there got me a good weekend, it was good, but it was scary because, gosh, the guys were monsters. All the guys there, all ended up going to WWF. At the time, it was WWF. And it was like, that's why WWF was land of the giants at one time. I mean, everybody they were getting were the guys that were 6'6", 280 pounds, 300 pounds, muscled up. Old Bill Watts, man, he had all of them. He had the Freebirds, he had Junkyard Dog, Big John Studd, the Legion of Doom was there, Rock and Roll Express. I mean, he had the WWF before they had it. Robert was out there, and who else? Jerry Oates, Marty Oates was there for a minute. Nikolai Volkov, Barry Darso. JYD was a big deal down there. Junkyard Dog. Mm-hmm. He was going around. His big thing was who that? Because New Orleans was one of their main places, and that was who that country. Andre Giant, when he went sliding through there. But yeah, man, that was a good place. So scared me though, because I was just starting. I'm like, man, where do I fit in? A little 5'11", 220 pounds. Where do I hung around Rock and Roll Express because they were the next littlest. But that was the Jerry Oates, Marty Oates thing.
All right. Well, from 1984 to late 1985, you teamed with several partners before you settled on Marty Jannetty. I'm sorry, you settling on Shawn Michaels as your partner. The two of you would call yourself the Midnight Rockers. What made him stand out from all your partners that you've had previously, and then who came up with your name, the Midnight Rockers?
The first partner I had was Tommy Rogers. We went as the Uptown Boys. That's all Bob Geiger and Harley Race could come up with, as far as like, hey man, this Rock and Roll Express, they're getting over. Let's do something similar. So they had us put those little leggings and told us to wear some handkerchiefs, around the wrist, and they called us Uptown Boys. I could have cared less what they called us, because I was just starting out. That was my first full-time territory. So, I was just having fun. He called me the assholes, the rock and roll assholes, or whatever. Be happy. But, we did that for maybe 8 months, 9 months. After we won the tag championship, Tommy moved on with a guy named Buzz Tyler. They went over to the Crockett's in the Carolinas. And that left me singles for a while. And then once I was the TV champion, then their Central States champion, they had me tagging up with Shawn came through as Shawn Michaels, and they asked me to look out for him. I just was telling this the other day on that biography. If you saw, the Shawn Michaels autobiography or biography.
We saw that. We saw you.
Yeah, they came. Terry Garvin come up to me and he says, "Hey Marty," and Dave Peterson, DJ Peterson, best friend I ever had in the business, and God rest his soul. We hung out. We were tight, and the cut up crew, and the Terry Garvin's come and said, "Hey, can you look out for this new guy coming in? He's about y'all's age, and he's going to like to have." There was wanting to have fun because they were interested in bringing him in and having him. So Dave and I were like, "Well, yeah, sure," but Dave and I to ourselves, we were like, "What's up with this? They've never asked us to watch out for anybody. So this guy must be something amazing." And he came in. I think it was Topeka, Kansas, somewhere in Kansas. I just remember because they would always have new guys show up, local guys, and use them as extras. And so we're looking for Shawn, and like I said on the biography thing, walked up to one guy that I knew was an extra, had to be, right? Walked up to him and was like, "Hey man, we're looking for this dude named Shawn Michaels, or heard of him or anything?" And he looks up, he goes, "I'm Shawn Michaels." And it was so nerdy, man, because he had short hair. He had at first he had his blue jeans on, pulled up to under his chest, and like a big old Texas belt buckle on it, like a license plate for a car. Yep. And it was just as nerdy as could be. And we was thinking, this guy this is the one you're making a big fuss about. But obviously it wasn't about the appearance. I think he worked with Scott Hall that night, which at that time Scott was learning a lot. He was real green, and you could tell it. So we almost felt sorry, bad for Shawn, even though we didn't know him. Hell, he went out and had a great match with Scott. And we were like, "How'd he do that?" So okay, maybe that's why they like him. But so it ended up Shawn was there for a few weeks, and they had a tag against we called something American Starship. It was Scott Hall and Dan Spivey, big old 6'8" Dan Spivey.
Yep.
Both of them were tall and built pretty good. Scott was built real well. And they got me and Shawn, 5'11", 220 pounds, threw us together like, "Hey, go have a match," because it was TV match. And so they needed to hurry up. Somebody didn't show up. And so we went out and, oh man. Well, the good thing about having a tight schedule like that is you don't have time to get too nervous, because you got to think of a match right away. Whereas if you got a little time to think about it, you think about all the things that can go wrong and get all nervous. So, we jumped right in and oh man, it just clicked. I'd be sitting on the apron, seeing him in the ring thinking, okay, he should great opportunity. Take him over there, reverse into it. You know, every move I would think, and he was set up good to do. He did it. You know, and I thought, well, okay, we're in tune with each other. And it was after the match, and it went well. We was walking back to the dressing room, and Sean looked over at me, and I looked at him, and he goes, we both just kind of nodded, like, you know, understanding that we both were thinking, hey, that went good. And then Sean told me in the dressing room, same thing I just told y'all. He was saying the same thing on the apron. He was like, hey, Marty could do this, or Marty could set up real good to do that. Then tag me. And then Marty, you went and did it. You know, so we were like in tune with each other from the very first time we ever tagged. You know, and then of course I got to call up the AWA for a while. Wrestled singles first couple, maybe 3 months. Then they wanted to add a tag team to the area. So they asked me, anybody that, you know, you've enjoyed tagging with, you think will do good? And, you know, right away I thought, yeah, well, Sean. I would have gone with Dave Peterson, but at that, we'd not really tagged together. But, you know, best friends and, you know, learning from each other. But as far as who I'd worked with, you know, so Sean, and they brought him in, and, you know, we did good. And so they said, okay, we're going to give you this, you know, this kind of a rock and roll gimmick. Nobody was thinking about we're ripping off Ricky and Robert. We wasn't, again, for me, I was just happy, man, like guys to go used to be pretty good again up here. And it was a step up in the career because now you was at a nationwide exposure on ESPN TV. So again, I don't care what the hell y'all call us, but you know, so it was a long process because Sean, I tried to think of names. What we had done was well, no, that I'll take that back. That was WWF at the time. But we were trying to, even AWA, we're trying to think of a name, you know, that we liked. And, you know, we were stumbling on it at first, and they were, I think Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect. We were in Vegas where we taped every third week, you know, for the TV shows. And Big Van Vader come in. At the time, he was Leon White. And he came in and wanted to party, and he said, I heard these rockers, man, where they at? Midnight Rockers? Or at the time, no, it was John and Marty. We hadn't really got a name yet. And so Kurt Hennig told him, you want to hang out with Marty and John. And we, like I said on the TV, you know, the biology thing, and Sean and I, we lived based out of Minneapolis. We had the club that was hot for Monday nights. Tuesday night was the hardest night of the week. But we found the club, and it was like a Chi-Chi's or something like that, you know. But we found a good one for Tuesday. Wednesday was always good. Thursday was good. And then you got the weekends. So we was partying all every night of the week, having a light of my girlfriend, his girlfriend. There were so many business meetings that weren't really. That's how we got away.
That was the original party with Marty?
Yeah, the original. Old Leon White, man, we was out in Vegas, and you can't miss a party there. Anywhere you go, it's already a party.
Yep.
And but he went up to Kurt and said, man, and we were standing there, burnt out, right? We're still gonna get it, but we were burnt out. And so we're, you know, moving a little slow at first. And Leon says over to Kurt, says, man, I thought you said these guys were the partiers. And Kurt's like, oh, it's early. They don't even start till midnight. Right about when he said that Judas Priest song, Living After Midnight, it came on. So we were, you know, Midnight Rockers, and that was our theme music. That's, you know, we went to the ring. And man, it went well from there on. It just flowed. But the partying, yeah.
Yeah, man. Speaking of partying, so you guys landed for a brief stint in 1987 to the WWFE. And according to their version of history, you were fired after a few weeks. So I was wondering if you could tell us and everyone listening what occurred from your perspective. I've heard what Sean had to say. I've heard what Vince had to say. What happened that night with Jimmy Jack Funk?
And this is, you say, from my perspective, this is what actually happened.
Yep.
we we were a little bit quiet and shy, and we were scared. I think Sean and I both scared because everybody's monsters, and we didn't know really anybody. We were in good with all the guys from AWA. So if we go to a little sports bar or something, we're cutting up and hanging out with everybody. And that was our reputation, these guys partying. So when we first came in with that night, we were quiet and sitting off to ourselves, which didn't look good, because we were the two youngest guys in the area. And back then, it was unheard of for anybody inside of 2 years to make it to WWF already. Now that ain't nothing. I mean, dude, they got less than it shows. They got less than 1 year, and they can be in there. But that's the ones that's, fast burn. They come in, boom, burn out, gone. That's why the turnover rate's so high, in my opinion, right now. But we Terry Garvin, who reason we're so good with him, he was the booker in Central States. So he always, was trying to help us there at WWF because he knew me real well from what was it? NWA, Central States. Mm-hmm. But he came up and said, "Oh no, guys, you got to go mingle. The guys don't think y'all are stuck up. They're already jealous of y'all because y'all young, and y'all work pretty good in the ring, and so they're worried about their jobs to you guys, and you can't be standing. Y'all can't get over and mingle." So we did. And we hit it off pretty good at a table. The table was Tito Santana, Davey Boy Smith, Jimmy Powers. Jimmy Jack was in and out. He'd come and then leave. But there was about 4 or 5 of us at the table. And they were pretty welcome. They were nice to us. And Jimmy Jack came up, went over to Sean. "Hey, I heard you guys are big partiers." And he takes like a little tall champagne or wine 2 glasses. "Let me see you do this, punk." Now, he didn't say punk the first time. He was trying to, "Let me see you do this." And he's looking and talking to Sean. I'm right there on the other side of it. But, Sean's, and it's a bar trick. You hold the glass with your teeth. You just pull with your hand and it'll break. It won't cut you. I mean, I knew the trick, so I'm thinking, well, maybe you'll ask me. I can do it. And Sean's like, "No, man, we don't know. Don't know how to do that one, Jimmy." And Jimmy's like, "Come on, punk." And he started bowing up more. Sean was, bowing down. And as he took another one, broke it off, and he's like, "Come on, punk. I told you you're supposed to be a partier. Let's do something." So eventually, Sean didn't know what to do, so he took one. He goes, "Well, I can't do that, but I can do this." Ping, popped a little, broke a little wine glass over his head. That was it. Jimmy Jack was in heaven. These guys are great. Everything went good for the next hour. We drank shots. We were cutting up. We were laughing. Everything was good. Girls were coming up. We were cutting up with girls. The end of the night, it was closing time. And so this girl that I've been talking with and's been coming over talking with me. She was pretty. She had almost a negligee top, but low cut, and she had her boots, push up, and she didn't even need that. But they're bobbling out the top, and I'm all like, "Hey, it's my first day in here. We didn't even have a match our first day. We had us on for the second day. We did Rochester to TV." Where we were staying in Buffalo. This all happened in Buffalo, where TV was that next night. We didn't even, or it might have been vice versa, Buffalo, but then Rochester, whichever it was, we didn't have a match. That was our first night. We didn't even wrestle yet. And I'm thinking, well, damn, I've already landed a girl and I haven't even been on TV yet. And we're leaving, and Jimmy Jack comes up and he's like, "Hold on, I'm going up to the room and get my wallet. Let's go eat at Denny's." So I'm like, "Okay, fine." And I'm waiting, and the girl's like, "Come on." I said, "Well, we got to wait on Jimmy Jack." She says, "Come on, let's go." And I'm like, "Well, Jimmy's coming." She goes, and she kind of pushed her chest forward. She goes, "Do you want to go with him or do you want to go with me?" Well, that wasn't that hard of a choice. So I went ahead and drifted out the door with her. And she come pulling up in the car, and you know, I'm like, hurry up, because you know, on the way to Jimmy Jack gets right there. Say, sorry, Jimmy, we're going to just me and her going. You know, so we take off, and she went the wrong way. She took a left out the driveway, whereas we was going to go back to my room, my hotel, which I wasn't staying there. I was just there for the party, and we went wrong way. We had to get on the interstate. So she turns around. I mean, I didn't know. I had no idea. She goes, I got to turn around and go back. And one thing and nothing of until we arrived right back in front of the hotel. And Jimmy Jack standing out front with his arms folded and looking around. And I'm like, oh, shit, there he is right out front. I said, we got to turn in now. She goes, I ain't turning in. I'm like, you have to. We can't do this to him. And he's looking, he knows her car, he sees her or he sees me. So I'm sticking my hand out the window, like pointing for her to turn in. She, you know, she's driving, and I'm saying, now turn, and making sure he's seeing, look, man, I'm trying to get her to go in there. That was the intention, right? She went back with me. We spent the night, you know, had a good time. Accomplished our mission. As the next day, we go to TV and the catering, you know, where to have the food. Well, Jimmy Jack comes walking up, and I guess I wasn't right there side by side with Sean. He walked right. I don't know if he talked to Sean first, but he came right up in my face. I was smiling because the only thing I remembered at that point, I was kind of hungover. It was remembering we had a great time, right? You know, we were all laughing, cutting up, breaking glasses, you know, only to the extent of what I told y'all. You know, it got said that, you know, we were throwing that glasses and bottles at the bartender. None of that shit happened. But he starts yelling, what's your problem, punk? And at first I was confused. I'm not sure if he was, you know, is he serious or what's he doing here? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He said, you know what I'm talking. What's your problem, punk? And I was like, Jimmy, I don't know what you're talking about, buddy. I mean, he goes, you know what you did last night? I said, I thought we all had fun last night. I have no idea. And I didn't. I was lost as hell. Because what I didn't know was that girl was his regular rat for that town. I had no clue of that. I mean, I found out later. So I'm sitting there confused as hell, legitimately. And, you know, he's like, you know what you did? You told, and there was a limo guy out there. And I guess he was there he was Jimmy's limo driver for that night, that night, which was unusual for a mid-card guy to have a limo. But, you know, you told the limo driver you guys were the stars and I was a nobody, so you went took off on your own instead of going with me. And that was, you know, I was total bullshit. But it was the right thing to say for him to say, because everybody in the catering, everybody eating, they stopped eating. You could hear a pin drop when he said that I called him a jobber and we were stars.
Oh boy.
They all stopped and just staring like would look like fangs coming out of their mouth. And I'm like, fuck. But you know, it was like, man, that ain't even something anybody would say, let alone me. That's not something I'm gonna say. Come on, Jimmy Jack. You crazy? That's all right, punk. We'll find out tonight if I'm crazy. I got you and I got that punk. He points at Sean. And then everybody's looking now, right? We got the whole stage to ourselves. And that punk is over there throwing beer bottles and breaking glasses all over. We might get kicked out of there now. Like what I told y'all, the broken glass thing, that is all that happened. Nobody outside that table even knew of it. No bouncer, no security, no waitress, nobody even knew. I'm sure they found the broken glass, but they had no clue of anything because it was not that loud or big a deal. It got no attention. But
right,
you know, nevertheless, we ended up having to wrestle him that night. We looked at the sheet, the TV sheet, and sure enough, we're wrestling him and Jose Rivera, not Rivera, the other Jose. Shoot, I can't think of his name, but they were both the conquistadors. Jose Estrada, great worker. Jimmy Jack was a great worker. But Sean, man, he got a little nervous about the fact that we like, is he going to, he's going to try us in the ring. It's our first televised match for WWF. And if he goes into shoot mode, we're going to look like crap. I mean, I wasn't myself, wasn't too worried about the shooting, but Sean is not, not a shooter. So he was worried about it. So he went to Chief Strongbow, Jay Strongbow, told him, and then Chief pulled aside, and I'm thinking, man, you're just digging this grave deeper, by doing something like that. And Jimmy Jack came over, and Chief had the words with us, and then he's like, "Oh, Chief, I'd always be professional." And we're going into that match nervous as hell, but it went great. We had a super good match with him, and afterwards, Jimmy Jack came up to us, and he apologized. He goes, "Look, guys," he goes, "y'all are good guys. You're good workers. I apologize." And he goes, "Marty, I also heard you didn't know that was my regular ring rat for the town." See, that was the first I knew of that. So I had no idea what all that was. I knew I felt bad that we're driving right past him when he was going upstairs to get his wallet and was, we were going to go eat. That's all I knew. I didn't know that was his girl. Well, not his girl, but his,
his regular.
His regular.
Yeah. And so hell, man. I mean, I found that out. I understood his point of view. But that was it. And, then word got around to Vince that, hey, these new kids, and he had just had his first ever meeting with the boys about professionalism of all things. That day, he said, "Look, the business has changed. It's not like it used to be. It's not a six-pack and a blowjob. We're up there with the NFL. I want us wearing suits. You represent the company 24/7." And that night we go first day in, and we supposedly tear up a bar. Because what I told you is what actually happened. But you know how the story will grow.
Right.
As Sean called it, a fishing story. The fish keep getting bigger and bigger.
Yep.
And it is the truth. I mean, when Vince called us in, actually, I called Vince and said, "Hey, can we come sit down?" Because he was letting us go. Can we come in and talk about it? We paid our way, flew in. I think round trip from Minneapolis to New York was $500. That was way back then. Or something around the $450, whatever it was. That was a lot to spend just to sit down and him telling him, "Dom, I got to let you go." We were just thinking we'll tell him what happened, because that story grew so fast. By the time he released us, when we went down to Continental Wrestling down in Birmingham, Alabama with the Fullers, we come in and the boys were like, "Ah, man, you guys we heard y'all were crazy, man. You finally got a job with WWF. We're all trying to do that. Y'all went in and, man, tore the bar up the first night. And, man, we heard y'all caught a couch on fire and threw it in the pool to put it out." And we're like looking at each other laughing because the little break on the head, it was it, and the little bite. But, it was already done. We had got accused of it, and we're thinking, well, that story sounds cooler than what really happened. Yeah, we did that. We just went with it like, yeah, we might be a bit crazy. But the truth is that what I just told you, and it was a year later before we came back for our second try. And that, and that pretty much worked out.
Wasn't there like a line that Sean said to Vince, like, "These boots are made for walking," or something like that?
Yeah, we was we were there at 9, about 10. The meeting was at 9:00. We were there 10 minutes till or so, and Vincent got there to a quarter after. So that gave us a good almost half hour with sweating bullets out there waiting on him. And Sean has some new boots. We're sitting on a little small couch or two-seater chair, like a damn couple. But he's got his legs crossed and boots, new snakeskin boots he had recently bought. And Vince walks in and we're straightening up and, "Hey, how you doing, Vince?" He goes, "Nice boots," over to Sean. He goes, "Oh, thank you. He goes, "They're made for walking, And we're like, "Oh, no." And he goes, oh, just joking. Come on in. We got us inside, then fired us. but as he said, he wasn't firing us. He goes, it's not a firing, it's a release. If the boys don't want you here, trust me, I'm doing you a favor. You don't want to be here, which we thought was, bullshit, reasoning. But, as in time, we've come to find out that was true. He was doing us a favor because the boys will be brutal to people they don't like. And
Yes,
so,
according to Bruce Pritchard on his podcast, he said that Andre the Giant was messing with y'all for a while. Didn't like you or Sean. Every day, apparently, you guys were supposed to shake hands or something in the locker room, and he refused to shake your hand. Can you elaborate on that? Is there any truth to that story?
Yes, it wasn't that he didn't like me. Sean just carried himself as arrogant and cocky, and he was young. He was like 22, maybe. I wasn't, but 25 or 6. We were he was definitely the youngest guy in the company. 22 back then was a baby in the company, and as he got comfortable. But the biggest reason it wasn't that we wasn't shaking hands. We were keeping to ourselves because we were that second time around, or when after a year we're back, we're keeping to ourselves this time. We were like scared, don't want to mess up. And Andre took it as we were being cocky and arrogant. And then with the way Sean was carrying himself, that almost confirmed it for Andre. And it's tradition, I think even still, when you first get to the dressing room, you walk around, hello, how you doing? Shake hands, cordial with the guys. You can be like Warrior, Ultimate Warrior. He just got it over with. He hated it. This is so fucking stupid. I just saw y'all yesterday and the day before for 2 weeks. And I got to come here and shake your fucking hand again like I'm just meeting you. What the fuck? And he'd come in and you'd go ahead and go through the motions, shake your hands, and then go to his own personal room. He would get in a damn custodian closet if it was available, just to have his own space. It'd be he was bigger than the closet. He had to turn sideways to walk through the door. But he hated that. And it is tradition. We didn't hate it at all, but like I said, it wasn't, we shook hands, except Andre wouldn't, if he didn't like you, he wouldn't shake your hand. I tried anyway. I mean, Sean did too for the first couple of weeks, maybe. I still would go by, stick my hand out, and say, how you doing, boss? He called everybody boss. We'd call him boss. How you doing, boss? Stick my hand out. He'd be playing cards. He wouldn't even look up at the hand. Just keep playing like you didn't exist. I really didn't find out till later. At first, I was like, well, what the hell is that? What kind of shit? I think not Terry Taylor, one of the Bulldogs.
Dynamite?
What's that?
Dynamite Kid?
One of them, we got close with them, wrote a lot with them at first. And we hit it off because they loved to joke around. And we were going to love to joke around, but just not yet. We were still scared to do anything. But I think one of them told us, Andre doesn't like y'all. He thinks y'all are cocky and arrogant. I think it was Dynamite because he was, especially you, and he pointed at Sean. And really and truly, he didn't, I don't think he had anything against me. But when you're a team, it's the Rockers are stuck up bastards, not Sean. Undertaker said it on Biography. Because he really didn't never like Sean. He said it, at one point he didn't like Sean. He never did like Sean. I mean, I remember. But if you saw it when he said it on Biography there for Sean,
yeah,
he goes, they were peckerheads. Let's call a spade a spade. They were peckerheads. And me and them were buddies, cutting up all the time. But again, it's like when you win or lose. It ain't Sean got pinned, it's the Rockers got pinned, or the Rockers won. You don't say which one won. So I even told Sean about that when we go to the clubs and he was acting, like the arrogant, cocky ass that he would back then that he would do. And man, everybody in the clubs, I had to get him out of a few potential fights that he wouldn't have done well. And I took him aside and told him, stop the bullshit, treating them like shit, because you want to do that, do it on your own time. But when you do it with me around, we're the Rockers. The Rockers were assholes. Not Sean was a asshole. So I mean, he kind of laid back off of it a little bit. But back to Andre, I still, even on the plane, if when you see it, he's always going to be up in the front in the first class. Where the biggest seats they can get him in. He still was too big for him. But every time you walk by on the plane, with same thing. Hey, how you doing? And on the plane with Andre, Sean finally said, "Fuck him, I ain't kissing his ass." Which I didn't care one way or another about that. That's Sean's deal. I had nothing against Andre, and I knew I'd done nothing to him, so I still would walk by and, "Hey, boss," and stick my hand out, knowing he wasn't going to shake it, and knowing it's embarrassing because other people on the flight that don't know anything, but we're the wrestlers, they don't have any knowledge of history of anything. They're all seeing me, you're getting punked, basically, just stick your hand out and they just ignore it. But I didn't care. I mean, that didn't bother me. I mean, I liked him. Hell, I watched him when I was a kid, 10 years old. Me and my brother Gino, my hero, we'd go down to the arena and watch that big old 7'4" guy come out the same thing, just heads, we were cricking our neck, looking up, at him. But when somebody you like them at such a 10 years old, then you're actually in a dressing room with them. You can't just say, Sean did, fuck him, I ain't kissing his ass. But it all got smoothed over, and I mean, it was like 2 years of that. And remember, we didn't see Andre every day because we had 3 teams: A team, B team, C team, D, ABC team. They actually added D at one point. Imagine that, 4 towns a night they would run, and they were all sold out.
Making the money.
Yeah, man, they were taking full advantage of it. But so if only when you're on the same shows as Andre, and they intermixed them. Sometimes you'd be on the B, sometimes A, sometimes C. I always wanted that A because back then they paid you by the house, according to the crowd size and where you were at on the card. But so you always won that A team, because that meant the biggest arenas like the Madison Square Garden, or the Spectrum, used to be a Spectrum down in Philly, or Rosemont Horizon in Chicago, the LA Arena, all the biggest arenas, and Hulk Hogan. So, it was sold out. And so you were going to get better pay. I think B team was headlining, and Hulk would always pretty much stay. The main event guys stayed where they were. I think it was Savage was the B team leader. And then Jake was the C team leader. And they flip-flopped once or twice. Jake would move up to B team and Randy to C. Warrior came in and started doing the C. But anyway, we didn't have to see Andre all the time. Like 300 days a year we were on the road. And you'd probably see him 50 days or so, maybe 75. But the same routine, go by. How you doing, boss? And he's focused dead on his playing tonk or whatever, cribbage or whatever they used to play. And but we had a 6-man tag in London, I believe it was. Might have been in Paris. I think it was, because they had these French signs up and ladies to walk us to the ring. But it was 6-man tag. And, Sean, like, how's this going to work? He won't even talk to us. How are we going to make this work, tag with him? And we did not say a word. I mean, I drifted over to him like, "Hey, boss, anything in particular you want to do?" Just like with the handshake, didn't even budge, didn't even look up at me. I'm like, "All right, well, just let me know." Sean didn't even bother talking with him. But we, now his knees were getting bad, carrying all that weight around. and being 7'4", 400 pounds, man, them knees started bumping outwards, and what they call that, bow-legged? Boy, he was a big old bow-legged guy. And he'd had operations already on each knee. And his pants, a lot of times you could see the blood on the corners of his knees, because it was busting the stitches or, the cuts open. That's how bad it was. And, he was having a hard time just walking. Well, when we got to the ring, I think it was the Rougeos, or it might have been Orient Express with Fuji. I forgot who it was, but the six-man tag. We got to the ring, and there was these steep steps, 3 steps up to the ring. And as we're approaching it, I'm already seeing the problem. I'm like, oh man, Andre ain't gonna be able to get up that. And so I say, hey boss, so when we get to the steps, just put your hand on top of my head, use us, to push up on. And Sean said, yeah, do that. And he did. He didn't say a word, but he did that when we got to the step. And man, he put them like we were crutches. Our knees started bowing out like this. I mean, a lot of weight. But we got him up to the top, and that's how big he is too. His hands almost just straight down by his side. It's still higher than his hands were up higher than us. But he got up there, and we took care of him in the ring. I don't think he tagged him in once. I think he come in and did that big sloppy punch thing. What? 40. Okay. And sorry, my brothers are showing me the time. We got the match was over and kind of did the same thing leaving. So now we're blowed up. So when he was pushing down, well, I'm thinking, man, you better not fall if you let Andre fall. But got back to the dressing room, and he came up to me and offered his hand. You guys are pretty good guys. And that was kind of the end of him hating on us. But then Sean threw attitude, like, oh, now he wants to be nice. Oh, man. I was like, man, you go ahead and stay mad at Andre if you want to. But no, so that was that. That was the deal with Andre. I liked him, man. I think he ended up liking me. I don't think he ever liked Sean, but that was not uncommon back then.
All right, so October 30th, 1990, Fort Wayne, Indiana. The infamous match occurs where you and Sean win the titles in a non-televised match, but the rope breaks. You even defended the belts a few days later against Power and Glory, but
no, not a few days. The next day, it was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and it was for Saturday night main event. I think it was NBC, and it was a 2 out of 3, and best of 2 out of 3, and I think it was on the first fall, might have been the second. I don't remember for sure. I think it was the second one. But the rope broke. I got shot in the corner, and it wasn't even a hard, big. And plus, only 220 pounds. Big earthquake and all them, tugboat and them all running into it, and it's fine. My little whippersnapper butt hits it, and pow, the thing popped out of the corner. And as they said in the biography thing, Brett and Sean were in the middle of the ring, and Brett, being the veteran, been raised in the business, he knew it was taped for the show the next week, and they could have just edited that out before they showed it. And so he said, "Stay right here, just stay here." He's telling the ref, "Tell him to fix it. We're going to stay right here." And I think he had a front face lock, or Sean had a front face lock, one or the other, but just stay right here. Which is kind of what they did for a while when they started doing commercial breaks during a match. The referee would let you know, like, commercial break coming, so that you grab something. Or if you notice now, it's always when somebody goes out to the floor that they take the break. And what?
He's just got to go pee.
I thought he was looking. I thought he was saying, like, kayfabe, man, don't tell everybody.
No, kayfabe's dead. We all know that. No.
Yeah, pretty much. That's why I was like surprised. Like, okay, wait a minute. But anyway, we sat and the ref got the info, tried to relay it because they got the thing in their ear and they can, be heard. And he was telling them in the back, like, fix the rope. But they said, "I'll just finish the match. Just finish it." I don't know why they, because that rope would have taken, and it did. They did it in between the fall, before the third fall. It took like not even 5 minutes to fix. And that is a long time to sit in the front face lock. I mean, you can be pretty much telling the crowd, but it doesn't matter because that's the live crowd. It was probably, I don't know, it's Fort Wayne. So I think that was a 12,000, 10,000 seater arena. But you're going to show several million people that thing. So you worry more about the millions of people than you do that one city. And,
right.
I mean, that was the theory back then. I hated that. But not just that. I mean, we did that on a lot of pay-per-views. They'd put you with your guy to get your match down real good before the pay-per-view. Because that pay-per-view was going all over the world, and that was like with Sean and I in the Royal Rumble match against each other. We had 3 days to work with each other to get the match down. And man, we did that the match in Denver, to this day, still my favorite. And yeah, man, it was like, I mentioned it to Vince and somebody else, one of the agents. I'm like, but what about those people that see us do that match and then they buy the pay-per-view and see us do that match? I mean, they're going to want a refund. I mean, they just paid. Right. And now they're seeing it. And plus, you just told them, oh, it's a choreographed, it's, staged. Not that nobody knows, but a good magician don't want to give his tricks away. Why would he like to watch them again? But, yeah, we did all that. And then they interjected Sherry Martel the day of, changed the whole, it threw the rhythm apart. I mean, that one we did in Denver, man, we had the people on their feet because we did the jump start. We had them on their feet at the beginning of the match. And we went for 20 minutes, right at 20. Because I know when they said 15 minutes gone, Sean and I were looking at each other like, oh my God. Because we always heard about the thin air because it's mile high and never affected us. We thought that's bull stuff, But man, we felt it. We were feeling it. We were like 15 minutes, that's it. And so we were thinking, man, are we going to make it? And we knew we still had like 5 minutes more worth of stuff to do. And, but that's where that crowd will get you through. The home, that's where for other sports, the home field advantage, that energy, because they could see it. They saw that we were petering out. And they were already on their feet, but they started chanting and cheering. And man, we fed off all that energy focused on you, focused to a centralized point, circle in the middle of a building. 10,000 people focusing their energy there. You feel it. You vibrate a little bit. And, it got us through. It definitely got us through the next few minutes. But we had them on their feet the entire match. They never sat down. And when it was over, they gave both of us a standing ovation as we were leaving. Even Sean, as the heel, they stood and cheered because they appreciated what we just did for them. And you guys know from the business, the biggest and best accolades you get is from the boys. When you come through that curtain and you had the whole curtain call and the entire everybody's watching, and you come through, they give you the clap. They give you not the clap like the. Not that clap.
Not that clap. Right.
Yeah.
The gorilla position was sold out
for you. Yeah, they clapping for you. A standing O at the curtain is the best you can get in my book. The Hall of Fame is nice, but that's a work. But the boys standing there because they appreciated what you just did. That's real. And too, it was just funny because I remember as soon as they got that curtain, I'm like, oh, thank you. And I found the table to shoot underneath and lay there and catch my breath. I didn't want anybody to see me like blown out. And then I heard this. I look over at Sean and found him a table across the hallway. He's doing the same thing. I was like, yeah, okay. And we looked at each other and did the thumbs up. And it was like, that's one of them things where they say leave it all on the field, or in our case in the ring. We left it all in the ring, bro. We didn't save nothing. We gave it all. And it was perfect, man. And then that next day they interject Cherry into the pay-per-view, like gave her a couple spots. It changed the rhythm, everything, the momentum, the rhythm, everything we had going. It was like starting over. It was like, and then when Vince was, he had heard it was the greatest thing. Blackjack Lanza, the agents used to have to call in every night and report the matches, how that one go, what happened, I guess grade them. I had actually heard him. It was on pay phones back then. Remember, they had the cell phones yet. And I actually heard Lanza telling Vince, he goes, you're going to need to put them on main event. Nobody's going to follow. He goes, I've been in the business 30 years, never seen a match that good. So that was the report Vince got, right? Then he sees the match we had, and it wasn't the same because it wasn't the same. That's why it wasn't the same as what he heard, because it wasn't the same as what we did. They threw Sherry in there, which not a big deal. That was the angle. If you remember, Sean hit her with a mirror.
Right.
And so she was the biggest part of the match. But then why didn't you send her around to 3 days with us? You just do it the day of the pay-per-view. I remember Vince calling us over and saying, guys, and he always, gave us, a good word after, like, very good match, very great, or whatever. It was always encouraging. It was always, complimentary. That's what we were expecting, even though I knew the match was off rhythm-wise a little bit. But I wasn't expecting when we walked up and he goes, disappointed? Very disappointed in what I saw. I had heard how great these matches were, and I figured you guys would steal the show, and quite frankly, that wasn't it. And I knew it wasn't great, but, I didn't want to say too much, but, I just kind of, Vince, Sherry wasn't involved the last 3 days. But I just, that's it. I left it. And Sean's just sitting there with his mouth hanging open. And I got thinking right then, I'm like, well, it's nothing to cry about. I mean, it was shocker because we'd never heard nothing negative about any of our matches from Vince. That was the first and last. But and then of course that's I got that time, I guess you would say, fired. Sean and I saw Sean pulling Sean as I walked away. I saw Sean saying, Vince, can I talk to you? And Vince walked off, and I seen them talking for a little bit. Had no idea. But the next day, I got called in Vince's office, which is unusual because there's on TV taping days. And I think Raw was the next day because that was Sunday pay-per-view. The boys line up to talk to Vince, at TV taping because you don't see them at house shows. And I got called in front of everybody. I'm thinking, the only thing I was thinking was like, well, this is unusual. That's all I knew. But once I got in there, Vince was like, I knew something was wrong with that match, and now I understand. I'm like, well, what do you understand? I told you, Sherry. Well, word is you were drunk during the match. I said, drunk during the match? I mean, that was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. I thought, Vince ain't much of a bullshitter, but I didn't understand. And I'm thinking, this is just an excuse because all my job was get Sean over. And, that's what I did. He got over, he got the win, for the paper, for the Royal Rumble. So my job is done. That's what I was sitting there thinking. And, but he's telling me this. It was reported that I was drunk during the match. And I was like, no. I said, first of all, test me. He goes, you got the drug test, and I'm on drug and alcohol. So I'm not supposed to drink on the road because, an incident where they got in a fight. And I had been drinking, so Vince assumed like every time you drink, this is what happens. So I'm on drinking clause, and so I told him, I said, well, just test me. She can test me right this minute, because I don't even know if I had to end up having to drink it too. But during that no drinking clause, I usually, especially before a big pay-per-view or TV taping, I wasn't drinking. And I was telling them, test me. Oh, sorry, the decision's been made. And I'm like, well, what kind of, again, I'm sitting there thinking, you're just getting rid of me because I've served my purpose. But anything I was saying to him, man, I just went through this crap with house arrest for something with the Tampa Police Department. It was not my fault. And now you're going to do this to me too? You're going to screw me? Doesn't matter what you say, the decision's been made. And I look at him and say, well, what do you mean decision's been made? It's your company who's telling you what you can't do. And, he just shook his head no. And I said, I can't believe you're going to be one of those that screws me too. You know good and well what you're saying is wrong. And I've never seen Vince put his head down for anything, because he stands tall no matter what he's going through. But he had his head down. That again is when I had to figure something ain't right here. And I said, well, what makes you think I was drinking? Well, one of the agents. And I'm thinking, I only saw one agent, and that was Ray Stevens. I didn't say that out loud, but I was thinking that's the only one I saw. So let me go talk to him about this shit. And I was so mad about it, I didn't talk to him. I just started cussing him because I had to get my stuff and go to the airport and leave. And the end of that just turns out that it was Sean who went to Vince. When he pulled him aside, he was telling Vince, I had to lead him by the nose. He was lost out there, blaming me for the match. And then so how'd the drunk part come in? Maybe Sean said, maybe he didn't. But Kurt Hennig, Mr. Perfect, ended up calling me one night, like a month and a half later. Hey, Marty, I got your job back. And, I was depressed as hell when I got let go for that. Because, like I said, I had just served 6 months house arrest for a bullshit thing. And now I'm getting fired for another bullshit thing. I'm like, what is going on? Come on, man. Nature. What are you doing to me? But so Kurt was riding with Vince in a limo. They got talking about it. Vince, Vince has always liked me. He's telling Kurt how he liked me, but he had to let me go. And told Kurt. And Kurt saved. He goes, that's not at all true, Vince. Sean was the one messed up. And he told me, and then he told Vince to confirm it by calling the hospital there, Sacramento. Sean evidently took a bunch of his pills, the somas, with all the boys were taking it at that time, and he drank, and he passed out in his food, like a bowl of clam chowder, I think they said it was, and was choking in it, and they had to call 911, resuscitate him or whatever. But it was on, Vince actually checked up to see if it was the truth. That was the night before the match. And it was Sean who was the one that was all fucked up and shit. So that's why Vince called. Kurt says, you're getting your job back. I saved your job for you, Jannetty. And I thought he was, hurt the rib. I said, Kurt, that's not funny. But so he, sure enough, actually Pat Patterson called me. Marty, how are you doing? I'm like, yeah, I'm good, Pat. How are you? And he goes, well, we want you to start back at TV next week. How are you? Are you in shape? And truthfully, I wasn't. I sat around and moped for like 6 weeks. And dude, I didn't come out of the house. I didn't talk to none of my friends. I think I got a bottle a day of Jack Daniels and just sat there and drank. So I hadn't been, out in the sun, my tan, pale white. You don't lose your body. I never had a great one, but you don't lose it 6 weeks. But it certainly wasn't, in my wind conditioning wasn't going to be great. But I told them, yeah, man, I'm in good shape. They brought me in, and that's as punishment to Sean. Vince had me beat him for the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah,
and
that was an awesome night. I loved watching that. I watched that over and over.
A lot of people did. I did.
Matter of fact, we had the referee that handed you the title on just a few weeks ago.
Bill Alfonso. We had him on.
Boy, man.